Ralph Duke ran Minnesota for over 10 years, running a tight organization, flooding the Twin Cities with pure snow straight from Columbia. When it comes to Minnesota, he's the big fish. He's the whale, the biggest kingpin to ever do it in that state. Now, the government was trying to get next to him since 1968. And of course, as time moved forward, heading into the 70s and 80s, more and more men started to lose morals. The government started to hand out ridiculous amounts of time for non-violent crimes. I mean, you had guys that could do a 5 to 8, but when the government started pushing 15, 20, 25 years, that's when guys started to spill. Early on, he developed an untouchable status. They couldn't get anything on this man. Everyone knew what he did. The hardest thing was proving it. He was being watched for decades. They saw him take flights all over the country, knew about the expensive purchases of vehicles and properties, his connections with some of the most popular figures in this country. It was hard to get close to him because he didn't talk to anyone. A lot of guys used to be offended by that, but that's just how he moved, and that was a smart way. Out of his entire run, the early 1980s was his best years. That's when he had all his motion. He had a lot of things going on. He was the man. Like the Colombians, they was giving this man anything he wanted as long as he could move it. And he didn't really have to worry about any competition, any rivals. He was really falling back, just making his money. But only if he knew the longer he stayed, the greater chances for him to get knocked. He purchased a car lot and had vehicles that transported the work to Iowa, California, and Texas. He would make a killing, setting up spots in different locations where they would break them all down. But wholesale was where it was at. He had a nice setup going on and structured it to where he didn't even have to go near the product. Now that tells you right there how smart he was, and he was just ahead of his time. He was just a good thinker. Now he had a lot of young guys as his drivers, which I think is a pretty risky move because we already know how reckless young guys are, especially when it comes to driving. He had his legitimate businesses going on, but he was throwing around money like he was Pablo Escobar. Everyone saw that. The alphabet boys were watching and knew what he was doing, but they just couldn't prove it yet. The neighbors would start questioning him. If you ask this man, what did he do to support his lavish lifestyle? He'll tell you that he's a gambler and he's eating very good off his luxury vehicle business. He had a $70,000 1988 Callaway Corvette limited edition. $70,000 in the 1980s is equivalent to $288,000 in today's money. So that tells you how heavy he was carrying it. If you see someone driving a $300,000 vehicle, you already know they heavy. But in this game of cops and robbers, law enforcement plays super dirty, and we all know that. Before you jump in the game, just know what you're up against. And you're up against a system that have an unlimited money printer. You have paid informants that's making over $80,000 a year being paid to snitch since the 1980s and further back. The scary part is they being paid to lie on the stand. Not only that, but there's witnesses on cases that the defendants never saw a day of their lives that's getting them time. Now, there was a big deal that was set up by an informant, that was dealing with his son. The informant was going to spend $140,000 for some keys. He stated that his son bragged about the moves that they was making. He bragged about the cocaine deals him and his father was able to put together in 2 months. Now, even though Duke wasn't present during the deal, they were still able to get a warrant because they had proof he was nearby. Duke was arrested in May of 1989. They took over 35 vehicles and 6 houses. During the raid, they found $20,000 in his house, an Uzi machine gun, and a 22 with a silencer. Now, we already know getting caught with a silencer, that's an automatic 3 years. Law enforcement will not go easy on you. Like, what the hell you got a silencer for? And, that's a 3-year sentence without even having a criminal background. But they was also able to take $100,000 in cash from his son. The prosecutor pulled up records that showed Duke didn't file an income tax return since 1985. And we already know Uncle Sam gotta get his. When Uncle Sam don't get his, things go down. So even if he beat the drugs and gun case, he still will go down on a conspiracy charge. They most likely will put him on a lifestyle trial because it's obvious the life he was living didn't match his income. They even labeled a young lady as his money launderer. She worked for a postal service, but had bank deposits equaling up to $190,000 within 3 years. He purchased things with straight cash and put it in other people's names. He will forfeit $1.8 million in cash, which was no point in my opinion because he was sentenced in 1990 to a term of life imprisonment plus 40 years for committing several serious drug trafficking and firearm crimes. And to add insult to injury, law enforcement used his Corvette as a police race car. The race car had a sticker on the side that says drug users lose everything. It was to send a bright message to the kids. Now, this man was sentenced to life in prison for a non-violent crime. Now, if I was him, I wouldn't forfeit anything. Like 1.8 million, and we're talking about the late 80s and 90s. So that's over $4 million in today's money. Now, that might have been part of the deal, so he could have kept something out there for his family. But here it is, 2025, over 35 years later, and he's still behind bars. Like, it's insane. Like, these jails are overcrowded. They need to free up some space, to free up a bed and let this man out. He got to get back to his family. Like, come on now. Like, yeah, he was caught with guns, but it wasn't any murders involved in his case. Like, no murders at all. Like, they need to do something ASAP about this. Like, it's been over 35 years. How much time do they want him to do? Like, how much time do they want this man to do, man? He served all his time. He need to get back home, man, and get back to his people. But yeah, man, for nonviolent crimes, I know they changed a couple laws since then for nonviolent offenders. Now, the big problem with this guy is that he overstayed his welcome. A lot of people might question if your connect is giving you a satisfying amount of product, how long do you really need to be in the game? That might be a good question, but you have to think about this. Some people are in a position where the streets is all they know. They can't do nothing else. Only in the perfect world where you get your money, pass your connect off and move on. But a lot of guys like to gatekeep. That's why the whole organization crashes when one guy goes to prison. It's always supposed to be the next man up. Just like the mafia, it's more so of the structure. I know I always talk about longevity and long runs, but a hustler ain't supposed to be in the drug game for decades. If you look at the guy that had a long run, he definitely went through a repetitive cycle. Being up, being down, losing his connect, looking for a new one, then doing jail time, come home, jump back in the mix. These things repeat over and over again. So a long run really isn't where it's at. But I appreciate all y'all for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss out on the content. Check out my last couple of videos. You already know, get the likes up. Say what's up in the comments, don't be a stranger. Hit the Patreon for exclusive videos. And that's all we got for tonight. I'm out.